Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Ava, aka Queen Midas, Life Alchemist, and I am here with my lovely co-host, Liz Olive. Hey, Liz.
Hey girl.
How you doing?
Good. Very
Good.
pregnant, but I'm good.
Your hair looks so pretty. Like the blonde.
I know the blonde's been doing right things lately. I don't know why, but I'm like, all right, I like this.
It's cool. Okay, cool. Welcome back to another episode of Freeing the Feminine. And today we are going to be talking about relationships. And this is actually going to be a several part series because there's so many aspects of relationships that we want to talk about. And it will give you all more value if we can break it up into segments and go deeper into these topics. So we are going to go ahead and start this off. And I'm actually going to start with a little excerpt from this book, Return to Love. It's Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles by Marianne Williamson. And this is a really awesome book. I'm going to link it down below. And I believe I talked about it in our first episode, but I felt like this would be important to share with you all. So on page 91, it says, the holy encounter. When you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. As you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. As you think of him, you will think of yourself. Never forget this, for in him, you will find yourself or lose yourself. So I just think that's so beautiful to start out with, because I've talked about so many times in several of my shows how everyone that we come across, every interaction is some sort of divine appointment, and there's some lesson or something that we can take from that to grow and reflect upon for soul evolution and just grow. So with that being said, and essentially it's saying people are mirrors for us to learn and grow. Let's talk about some of the toughest mirrors, our caretakers or our parents, and how a lot of our relationship patterns stem from childhood trauma or just upbringing.
Yeah.
Do you want to take it from there?
Sure.
Okay.
I feel like I've been talking about this subject so much lately, and it's very spot on with the collective, I think, and all that we're going through, and everything with the planets and the moon and whatnot. But I actually watched a TikTok video the other day that was, my sister sent it to me, and she was talking about, what is that called? EMDR therapy.
EMDR,
Yeah. So I've heard of it. I've never done it, but she was talking about how she's a EMDR therapist, and she was like, what no one tells you when you become a parent and you're an EMDR therapist is that you start to see all of the small T traumas instead of all of the big ones. So like when most people think of traumas, they think of like, sexual abuse, physical, emotional. Most people don't even think of emotional, but there's so many instances where, like one look that a parent gave their child from them doing something or not doing something caused them to mold themselves into a certain direction so that they never get that look again, because it made them feel so much shame. And they got so much trauma essentially for just a look.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this literally, I'm not a therapist, but this literally sums up my parenting. I think of every single instance in the moment when it's happening. I'm like, oh my God, is that going to traumatize him? Is that going to traumatize him? And it's the most, it drives me crazy. It literally drives me crazy. And I have to release and let go a lot of, any kind of control I want to have over the matter and just try to be the best parent that I can be. But there's so many instances when there's little T traumas that go completely unnoticed, and they're very emotional, and they shape us into who we are and the relationships that we choose, and the type of people we surround ourselves with. And it's huge. It's so big. And a part of me is very overwhelmed by that concept, but at the same time, I had this slight download revelation of trauma is associated always with bad, but trauma makes you who you are. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but I still don't like it. Thanks, but I don't like it. I don't like that it's like it's the tool that can be used in a good way and used in a bad way, I guess. As with anything, but it's kind of like God was like saying like, it's okay, like you don't have to fix every single trauma because those things made you who you are. But anyways, I grew up very much in for me, it was a very traumatizing household. Which I think my sisters can also, testify to that too. But we all handled it very differently. We all became very different people out of that same household. And it's kind of funny because I kind of took it as a launching pad when like my eldest sister didn't so much. She kind of has stayed there, like right in it. She lives in it still. And my middle sister kind of does the same. She's kind of used it as a launching pad also. But it's really interesting to think of it on a parenting aspect, as I am a parent now. I'm like, you kind of just see your parents as more and more human, and literally doing the best that they can with what they had. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I look at the way that my dad was parented. My dad was actually very abused, and like physically and all that stuff. And the parent that he became was so much better than the parents he was raised by. But still, I felt traumatized out of it in a sense. So just kind of seeing that progression and having empathy for my parents in that kind of way, now being a parent has really changed a lot for me. But yeah, it's amazing what happens in that first 4 years of life. And like most people don't remember it, and I'm like, yeah, because it was so traumatizing. Like literally think about it. If you're coming into a brand new world in a brand new body you don't know what to do with, you can't communicate, you can't get what you need, your needs met, and that is what trauma stems out of, is not getting your needs met. And that's why most people don't remember anything before the age of 3 or 4. And because we've been but it's such a molding and shaping of who you will become, or who you can become. And yeah, it's just, I don't even know where I'm going with all this. But yeah, I definitely there's just things that like even I think I was talking to Ava about an issue that came up for me this past week, about how I, felt like it started actually in utero, like when my mom was pregnant with me. And the fact that the baby in the belly can hear and sense and feel all of the things that are said, all of the emotions, the frequencies, everything like that, just really starts the building blocks of life. But yeah, it's a whole can of worms, I feel like. But I don't know, it's something that, I mean, I feel like we get most of our programming in those first 4 years.
Mhm.
And then you spend a lot of your adult life trying to unprogram yourself. um,
Wild.
but with things that you don't even hardly remember.
Mhm.
And that's part of the journey. And it's, something that I've kind of learned to like accept, in a sense that it's like, it's not something that has to be all done right away. It's
Mhm.
a ever growing, evolving process. But yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of don't even know where I was going with all that.
It's okay. It was good. I'm glad you mentioned the in utero thing because I had Reiki from someone who was talking about when trauma happens in the pre-language
Mm,
section of life. And like say later on they're going to therapy somewhere and it's talk therapy, like how do you talk about something that happened to you in pre-language years where you have no words to, you couldn't even communicate with words
right.
when that stuff was happening to you.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like that in those instances EMDR would be good,
Mm,
um like possibly a good
tool.
I don't know, solution
Yeah.
therapy. I don't know. And what's interesting about that is I just recorded a couple days ago uh, two more episodes of The Body Keeps the Score. And actually, the one that's dropping Saturday talks about EMDR. It starts to go into that section of therapy. So it expands a little bit more on that. And
Yeah.
it's like I'm not going to explain it the right way, I don't think, but I know that it comes off as like a form of hypnotherapy almost, but it's
Yeah.
not. Did she talk about like the moving of?
It's specific eye movements. That's really all I know about it, is it moves your eyes in a certain way to access different parts of your brain
Mm-hmm.
that you've closed off. It's funny because most people like that are dissociative or have multiple personality disorders, like
Mm-hmm.
people think that they're crazy, but it's a natural thing that your brain does to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
My mom actually counseled a lot of people with multiple personality disorders, so I like grew up being around it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I very much understand a lot of like what goes on in Hollywood. And these people don't know what they're doing because it's a different personality that they're accessing.
Right.
So I have a lot of empathy for the people in Hollywood because of growing up around my mom counseling people like that. But your brain, when something is so traumatic, it literally like puts it in a box and hides it
Mm-hmm.
away, so you can't access those memories because they're too painful, but they're still
Mm-hmm.
stored in your body. So like the eye movement essentially makes, somehow, I don't know how, but somehow, helps you access those suppressed memories so that you can heal from them again. um I sometimes don't think that it's necessary to always access the memories.
Yeah.
um there's something called the healing codes that I really love, and it's literally where you use the energy from your own body, and you put your hands here, 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 and here, and then you can do it. You can like tap and
Oh yes.
tap and tap. It's like all tapping. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of thinking of the bad memory, you think of whatever the opposite is, while you're like releasing energy into these different parts of your body. And you even like go up your body and shake where your chakras are. And I've gotten plenty, like tons of healing. I actually did that when I was pregnant with Levi, which makes me kind of think I did something to him because he's a special little boy. um, but I yeah, I've gotten a lot of healing from doing that and like changed the programming
Yeah.
in my subconscious from just energy work on myself, basically. Um, so there's so many different ways you can do it. Like I love I love talking about different types of healing because I used to be very much no, it has to be this way. You have to do it this way for it to work. And now I'm just like, there's so many ways. This is so exciting. Like, I'm so glad there's so many more opportunities and like things that are so much more easily accessible for people than just the rigid way that I was taught at one point. But yeah, it's yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Have you done a video on the healing codes or like tapping or anything?
I haven't, but I should. Good idea.
Comment down below if y'all want Lizelle to do a video on that.
I love how I've like become Lizelle.
That would be cool. I actually I came across a TikTok video on tapping today, or like doing like things to like shake out anger or shake like thinking of different movements for different emotions. Which is to me it seems like essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I kind of also feel like it's slightly like, in a way, the idea of yoga, like different movements release different parts and traumas in your body and whatnot.
Access different energy centers.
Yeah, yoga is one of those things I've always been interested in, but I feel like I need to make my own version.
I was just about to say, you can literally just do it on your own. I do it on my own a lot, and I do it based on what I feel like my body needs.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite. Like I'll do it at night with candles lit and just like relax into a position and hold it and let whatever comes up come up. And like that's some of my deepest meditation and like release work is doing that and learning my body and seeing how it moves in space. So
yeah, I mean I feel like that's the goal of yoga in a sense. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know enough about it. So, but I always wanted to create my own yoga using like Hebrew letters.
Ooh,
yeah. Me and my sister have talked about this.
We should do it.
Yeah, because there's such a like a frequency with the Hebrew letters because they're actually like living beings. And I mean like the Yod He Vav He, which is Yeshua's name in Hebrew, the letters of it. You can do a lot and like release energy and heal yourself just using that.
Where are these videos on content, ma'am?
It's all stuff I've learned from Ian Clayton, actually. But I've gotten a lot of healing from it. Like I said, it's something that like, it's one of those things that like, I'm like, are people ready for this? Like, maybe they are. I don't know. Am I ready to teach this? I have no idea. But, you know, it's something that's been stirring for a long time. Me and my sister both have thought about it, like, because you can totally move your bodies in the shape of the letters and whatnot.
Interesting. I love that. Anything physical, I'm like, yeah. And if it's healing, I love that.
It's kind of like they all mean something. So like with crystals, you know, the crystals mean something and have different meanings and whatnot. The same with the Hebrew letters, they all mean different things. So you can use them in different ways to heal your body, basically.
That's really cool.
Anyways,
I'm gonna talk to you more about that because I just had an idea for something that we've been talking about.
Okay.
So cool. We talked about trauma, childhood trauma, and then how it can translate from like, oh, I love how you talk about your dad having like you knew a little bit about his background and his growing up and how he wanted to be he essentially was a better version of his parents, but he still created trauma in you that you're still resolving, which essentially you're breaking ancestral generational curses, which a lot of us are. And a lot of the things that we are carrying or we feel like are coming up for us are not necessarily our things. So, and remember when I texted you yesterday, I was like, and it actually was Mary from Glimpsing Beyond did a card for someone and this message came through. And it reminded me that like, we might be having a really freaking tough time and we might not even be resolving our stuff. It could
Mhm.
be somebody else's. So
Yeah.
I'm saying all that to say to the viewers, like, be compassionate and kind and patient with yourself. You know, if you feel like you're being crazy emotional, I don't mean to use the word crazy, but like, you know, just like over emotional, whatever that might mean, or just tired or short tempered or something. Okay, we're
Yeah.
humans. We're here to experience the full range of emotions and energy. It's just what you do with that. So just make sure that you're taking the time to slow down and breathe and like move through it. And if there's something for you in it, ask for the lesson to be highlighted to you. You know,
Yeah.
try to understand what's happening, and then also say thanks for whatever lesson comes up, or like however it shifts and you learn and grow from it. But like,
Yeah.
we're all moving through a lot.
It's
Um,
like the word that Taylor Moon always uses. She says transmuting.
Transmuting.
Like we're all like, I was just thinking, I got this like picture of like, even when you're alone, you're absorbing energy from something, like
Yeah.
and using it, however, like whether it's like the electrical frequencies in the air, or even if you're on a mountaintop, you're absorbing the energies from the mountaintop, you're always transmuting energy. And so whoever you're in contact with also, whoever's surrounding you, you never know. Like people don't always let you know the depths of what's going on with them. But I
Right.
feel like we're all going through a lot right now. So transmuting the energy, just being aware that even if it's an intense energy, it's still transmutable. You can still use it however you need to, because
Mm-hmm.
you're powerful.
Yes. And even with that, like making sure that if you realize that something's not yours, um, breathe and do your best to find center and call back your energy and let go of the energy that's not yours. And you know, you can do that with just closing your eyes and being intentional, or you can stare at a flame, or you know, whatever you need to do to like be centered and just intentionally pull your energy back in and let go of what's not yours.
Mhm.
And like salt baths are a great way to do that too.
Salt bath Wednesdays.
Yeah,
Woo.
salt bath Wednesday.
And Saturdays.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't know already, I take salt baths on Wednesdays and Saturdays. like like my regimented schedule.
Yeah, but
I need
it's
it.
great for like cleansing and recharging our aura.
Yeah.
Um, there was something else I was gonna say about the childhood stuff. So with me, there was a suppressed memory that came up in Reiki, and this was earlier in this year, and it was one of y'all. I haven't shared this with like anyone except for like two other people. So here we go. So there was one where my Reiki person saw me in a car seat in the back of a car, like screaming and crying, and like nobody was helping. And like my whatever male energy was in the front, I would assume it was my dad. Just turn around and like put his hand over my mouth, like nobody came to like nurture me or um see what was wrong or whatever. It was just like shut up.
Mhm.
And then there was another one where I was around 4, somewhere in there, and I was being held and like kicking and screaming, crying, trying to get away. And so it's just like this energy of being like not getting what I need, not being able to be heard or like speak my truth, and then like this over controlling, overprotective energy. And so those are things that um I've noticed have manifested in relationships over my life. Not just with romantic, but maybe even with like work situations or like I don't know. organizations. That sounds weird, but I don't even know how to like what that even really means. But I've been involved in so many things, but I've seen this stuff like come up where either somebody's like really overprotective to the point where they're like trying to control me.
Mhm.
And like for it's so funny because for me, freedom is like my number one core value. Freedom and independence. And it's just like but then if somebody's like trying to hold too tight and control my behavior and this and it's like stay in line. And you brought this up the other day, Liz, like feeling like I don't remember what I was saying, but essentially it was like it seems like you've had to act a certain way or respond or like, fall in line in order to get your needs met.
Yeah.
And essentially that. And I'm like, yeah, that's happened so many times, especially in relationships where
You've had to
like,
mold yourself to be whoever they are approve of in order to get your
yes,
needs met. Yeah.
yes. And especially with parents, like growing up in a church,
Yeah.
and I was the one who was like, this kind of weird and like, uh, I don't know, because I'm like knowing what's going on inside the house, and then we show up and we're like picture perfect on like Easter, like coordinating clothes, and we're all like, hey, like taking
Yeah.
pictures and stuff, and I'm like the one in the picture that's like, not
Little
really,
rebel
but
Ava.
energetically, I'm just like,
Yeah. You're like the one that smiles like this.
yeah, yeah, you're so happy.
So happy.
But yeah, so stuff like that, how it just carries over, because like those are such foundational, like precious years that, like you said, is like create and mold this like human.
Mhm.
And by I believe 7 or 8, those foundational programs are set
Yeah.
pretty much. They're pretty much solidified.
Yeah.
And then we spend the rest of our life trying to
Undoing it.
find the programming and fix
Yeah.
this, tweak that, and insert. Yeah. So and so that's one thing that I wanted to talk about was how like childhood stuff can pop its head up in relationships throughout our lives.
Mhm.
And I mentioned also yesterday how the moon in Libra, I'm sorry, the full moon in Aries was conjunct Chiron. Um, and it I believe conjunct means it's in the same sign. So Chiron, I believe, was
Passing
also,
each other.
yeah, like they're in the same sign, I believe. If anyone knows, please put that down below. But with that happening, it was bringing up deep childhood stuff, wounds, insecurities, instability, family stuff like that. And my Chiron in my birth chart is in the house of Cancer, which is in relationships. So I was telling Liz, and I don't remember if I mentioned this yesterday, but I went to the grocery store with my mom and grandma the other day, and I was like, I realized that I was so drained like a few minutes in because I had so much internal anxiety and all this stuff because I was like afraid to ask for what I needed. And I was going into all of these thoughts of like, this is what's happened before and this is gonna, and then like my mom like has really been trying since I first moved back from Florida 2 years ago, and I kind of went off on her and was like, you guys, I'm so vulnerable with you all. But I was like, I never felt like you wanted me. And I was like, I'm and all this stuff. And like basically going off on her. And at the end of it, we both end up crying. And but since then, she's really been trying to be like show up and be better.
Yeah.
And I've had to find it in myself to shift my programming.
Yeah.
Like shift my story of what my parents were. And it's so funny because my whole life I always thought that my issue was with my mother, but a lot of 99% of the stuff that I believe I'm transmuting, and like I have a friend Tracy who was on my first tribe talk, I believe, who's helped me with uh blocked emotions or stuck emotions. Most of those emotions have come from my father's side way back, like more than 10 times great grandfather back.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that I've been carrying, is like heavy stuff on his side. It's crazy because I've always thought that it was my mom that I was against, like my whole life. And
Yeah.
then and like I love that you said we start to see our parents as humans, like when we start to get older. And today, so I'm in Amelia Love's mentoring group, and we're actually, tomorrow is week 4 of 6. And in the over these past 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we've had to be doing like deep forgiveness stuff of people that are closest to us. And on our short list has to be family members and siblings and children. And my father was my number one person, like the very last person. And I cleared him today. Thank you, thank you. I cleared the energy around that today. And really had to just like I had to journal. I was stuck on him for a little bit, and then I had this idea to just journal things in that relationship that I felt like I needed to forgive myself around. And that sounds that might sound funny to some people, but like forgiving myself for feeling guilty that I couldn't connect with him when I would try to go and like talk to him, and there was like a wall up, and it's like feeling like I was doing something wrong, or feeling resentful to him because he would just like flip on it and have a short temper, or like or feeling like I resented him because I didn't feel like I could depend on him, or like he would like stuff like that. So I, in the end, and I'm kind of jumping ahead because another week we're going to be going deeper into forgiveness, but it plays into this week as well with the parent stuff. But yeah, I had to forgive myself in order to ultimately forgive him and clear that energy and just see him as a human that was showing up the best that he could with the situations that he had lived through in his life, and like find the God in him, in order to move forward. So
yeah,
yeah.
I love that you brought up like forgiving yourself, because so many people are always like, oh, I forgave them, like I don't know why, like I still feel this way or whatever. And I'm like, but you haven't forgiven yourself for not standing up for yourself, for not, protecting yourself, or, for even being put in that situation or whatever. Like, there's also like, you can forgive people, but sometimes you have to do it multiple times. A lot of people, I feel like, think that forgiveness is a one-time deal and you're done, but that's not always the case. I mean, I have people in my life I feel like I have to literally forgive all the freaking time. It just feels obnoxious. And it's mostly because they're still in my life, and and I still maybe not have dealt with like the very root of things that I, haven't been able to just like, no matter what they do, it's fine. It doesn't affect me. Or even forgiving myself. I don't know which it is. But
that's what I was gonna ask. Am I cutting you off right now?
Am I what?
Did I cut you off?
No.
Like, we're gonna keep going. No. Okay, so that's what I was gonna ask, because I've heard that throughout life, and people say that sometimes you have to forgive over and over again. But what if that's because we're taught that we need to go to the other person and ask forgiveness, tell them I forgive you, and make it, and we're literally taking the self-responsibility off and projecting it onto the other person.
That's true. Yeah.
And I feel like
I don't think you need to tell anyone that you forgave.
That's one thing in the group that I'm in, this mentoring group. Amelia says forgiveness is none of their business. Forgiveness is an act of self-love.
Yeah.
So what if that's the key to it? Like, what if
Right.
that's what it is? It's just forgiving yourself. I love that you brought that up because I was trying to think of all of the things, not all of them, because I wasn't going to divulge all that to y'all. But like, I just like let myself rewrite, and when I was
Mhm.
coming up with what I needed to forgive myself around, and one of the things was like not standing up for myself, not speaking my truth, not uh or feeling guilty that I felt uncomfortable in this situation, or stuff like that. So I would love to challenge you all, if you feel like there's somebody in your life that you feel like you're constantly forgiving or you're holding a grudge against,
Mhm.
reflect on that, dive deep into that, and see if it's really something with you, where maybe you need to stand up for yourself or create
Mhm.
some sort of boundary, or approach it in a different way. Like that could unlock
Yeah.
so much healing for you.
I
And
think
it's
boundaries are
real.
a
Yeah.
huge thing of it, because I think I've started to finally learn that after so many times of forgiving, like, people that just continue to do things. And it's like, why do I expect them to be different after I forgave them?
Yeah.
They're still going to do the same things until they grow and change. I don't know why I have the expectation that things will be different, on their side when it should be different on my side. Um, and I just feel like it's a lot of it has been learning about boundary setting, um, and protecting, being the protection that I need for
Yeah.
myself, and, not allowing them to have that effect on me,
Yeah,
you know?
protecting that inner peace at all costs. I think I mentioned some of that last night, in
Mhm.
finding the inner peace, the unconditional love, security, stability, safety within ourselves, home within ourselves.
Right.
And then, eh, I mean, I haven't gotten totally to that point, but we might be pretty unshakable at that point.
Yeah. I mean, because it's even like, um, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. This has happened so many times already today. Uh, you said something that I was gonna respond to. Um, oh yeah, it's like you're saying earlier that everybody's a lesson has a lesson to teach you, basically, or a mirror. And a lot of the people that I've found that I have a hard time, or I have to keep forgiving, are the people that don't have any boundaries within themselves.
Mm,
And I'm like, literally, it's just reflecting right on me. I'm
yes.
like, dang it.
Ah,
Like, boundaries are some of like the hardest things in the world for me. And it's because I never grew up with them.
yeah.
Not in like I like really used to think how I was parented was really cool because I was a teenager, and I was like, this is awesome. So hands off. My parents were so hands off. But then I realize now that it's actually been kind of detrimental, because I have no idea how to set boundaries within myself, or I haven't in the past until recently.
Okay. I was like, girl, we gonna fix that language real quick. Hold on. Thank you.
Like, let me get you off camera so I don't expose you. No, I'm fine. I can be vulnerable. It's fine. I'm a pretty open book. Yeah, literally. But I've noticed that's been a big theme of my life. I feel like the past like year or two is like actually like being the parent. Well, it's actually been longer than that, because I started to come up with this concept a while ago, like being the parent I never had, like for myself,
Yeah.
and even keeping my own promises, like to myself. Like a big one is like, if I say I'm going to, confirmation and lightning back there.
I saw that. Yep. That was awesome.
I A big one with myself is like, if I say I'm going to bed at 9:30, then I go to bed at 9:30. Like,
Mhm.
I don't like just be like keep scrolling on my phone, or talking to people. I like hardcore stop. No, I've got to do this. Like, be the parent that I never really had. I mean, I think I had a bedtime at one point, but it's still it's like that inner child in me needs a parent. and I have to be that for myself, you know. So yeah.
Beautiful, good. Okay. I have this actually moves into another quote that I want to read from this book. And this is on page 92. And it says, in every relationship, in every moment, we teach either love or fear. To teach is to demonstrate. As we demonstrate love towards others, we learn that we are lovable and we learn how to love more deeply. As we demonstrate fear or negativity, we learn self-condemnation and we learn to feel more frightened of life. We will always learn what we have chosen to teach. So
I kind of just like, it was like, oh, that's good, but wait, what?
I know. To teach is to demonstrate. In every relationship, in every moment, we teach either love or fear, which makes sense. So if we like, if say was in a relationship and acting out of from a traumatized space or like an unhealed space that I grew up, that I was like still carrying, I might say that there's abandonment situation where I'm like fearing that. If I were in a loving energy, I wouldn't be feeling that need to like hold on or like, suffocate or
Girl, I can speak to that.
pull too tight. Yeah. So it's like, in that situation, I would be demonstrating fear. And so, I'd be teaching fear. To teach is to demonstrate. We will always learn what we have chosen to teach. So it's like you're continuing to learn those fear cycles until they're broken, and it's a loving response or a loving energy that we're showing up as.
Yeah. I can speak to that. In the very beginning of me and my husband's marriage, we went through it, man. And it was because of not all of my issues, both of our issues, but a lot of the main one that we were going through at that time was because of me. And I could see the cycle happening, and I could see myself responding out of so much fear because of past hurt and trauma and the things that I believed about men. And and until one day, we got in a huge fight about it, and I was like, crying and whatnot, and he got so mad, because that's just how he expresses himself. I cry, he gets mad, and I it like literally, like, I felt like God audibly pretty much said, you have to stop. Like, you have to stop this. And I was like, I know. Like, and from that moment forward, like, anytime I started to feel that certain way or like start to get anxious about, because a lot of mine had to do with him leaving me, which he's never given me a reason to do that, like to believe that, but all my other relationships and everyone else in my life has, shown me that pattern and programmed my brain to think, when people get close to me, they leave me. And so I just projected it on him. and he absolutely did not give me any reason to believe that. And he would get so mad because I'm insulting him in a way, because that's not who he is at all. And then I'm just getting super emotional and like blaming him for nothing, and it's just it's a very toxic little cycle. And when I literally heard God being like, you have to stop. If you want to keep this marriage, you have to stop.
Yeah.
And so I started, anytime I feel that way, I would just completely refrain from saying anything about it, doing anything about it. Like, I would go and like deal with myself. And like get out energy like we were talking about before, like whatever that trapped emotion was, I would like try to go like work out or like, just do something like dance, something to release the energy. And it's no longer an issue in our marriage at all. Like I don't think about it at all. I don't have any like worry that he's just gonna like up and leave one day. And that used to be a huge thing for me. Huge. like and it doesn't even cross my mind anymore at all. And just from making that decision of I am not going to respond this way anymore. It's pretty much all it took.
Ownership.
Yeah.
Stepping into our power, owning our crap, and looking like not being afraid to look at our crap. Yeah. Because that's where the courage and the growth comes from. And I love that you mentioned projections, because that's where we're shifting into. That's like the last portion of this.
Okay, good.
I keep interrupting you.
No, it's fine. I couldn't remember if we were talking about that in the next episode or this one.
No, it's this one.
Okay.
And you brought it up. So I was wanting to mention fears and insecurities when we are projecting, or when we're whoever the individual is projecting their fears and insecurities onto someone else, like in your situation. Mm-hmm. Or if we are the individual getting projected onto, we can take that as lessons and or messages for us, mm-hmm. But make sure that because I had a situation, I actually had several situations happen recently where there's been people like just unleashing, and it's like, whoa, like out of nowhere, to where I don't know if you all know, but like when you feel that energy is like, this is not my stuff. Like,
like where did this come from?
Yeah, like freaking. Yeah. And so in those moments, I'll be hearing all this, wah, 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 and I'm like talking, and I'm like, okay, well, help me to filter out the truth in this situation and show me what I need to know in this, whatever lessons are here. So that way I can filter out all their projections and BS and whatever they're trying to, like acid they're spitting, and get the real truth in it that I need to hear in those situations. So it's really interesting, because being the receiver of projections can actually be something that we can use, like alchemize and use to shift and grow ourselves if we're open to finding the lesson,
Yep. I feel like I've only successfully done that a few times with my husband. There's plenty of times where he's just been like so over it with like work and whatnot, and he comes home and he's bringing it home, and I'm like, don't you dare bring that home, kind of thing. But at the same time, like when you're in a relationship and a marriage and whatnot, like I feel like that should be okay, like as long as the other person is like open to accepting it and dealing with it. And it's really interesting because like I just had the nudge to like, because he gets very quiet and goes in when he's like overwhelmed and thinking about too much or stressed out or whatever. I did the exact opposite. I go like explode, and he just like sucks it all in. And I don't know why, but I like had the feeling just to sit there on the bed with him, and I just started like energy basically pulling stuff off of him. And I just like I mean, to be honest, I was like on him, like straddling him, and his head was like right here in my face, and I was like just kind of like pulling it off of him, just like stroking it off, and I was just like, release. I even said like all of the stress, all of the frustration, and like he was just letting me. It wasn't weird to him at all. And in that moment, I was like, I felt like that's what I was supposed to do, was just like, because I wasn't in that state that he was in at all. And I knew it wasn't anything against me. It was very much something outside. And he needed me in that sense to be able to help him release that, basically. And it did. And then he was totally fine. Like, and he was just very open and started talking to me about stuff. And like, you know, it was great. I was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. Because like that has only happened a few times, quite honestly. And you know, it was like, for some reason I got like this like glimpse into how it's supposed to be, even though I've never done that before in my life. And so I was like, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to do this and not like freak out with him, you know. But I feel like in certain very like stable relationships, like being the person that's being projected on, you know, like it's good to create a safe space for those people like that are like needing to project. It's good to create a safe space for those people to let them, but then not actually receiving it.
Yeah.
Alchemizing it, whatever you want to call, transmuting it, and you know, turning it into something positive that you can heal and grow from together. But yeah, there's plenty of times when that is not the case. And you're not in connection and relationship or covenant like a marriage is together. And you don't need any of that. You should not take it on, but learn the lesson that whatever is being projected on you. It kind of makes me think of in like what I call kingdom work, when sometimes if you don't know what to work on, you literally can like ask like Yahweh to like let essentially the devil or your enemy talk to you and accuse you, and whatever comes up, even if you're like, that doesn't make any sense, it actually does make sense, because somewhere in your generational line it's happened, you know, and that's why it's able to accuse you, kind of thing. So it's like what you're talking about with the lessons from people projecting. It's like that guy Ian Clayton, he talks about how he did that one time, and it was like, you're a goat, RAP ER. Yeah.
Wow.
Your face froze right there. On my end, it froze like that.
That's how shocked I was.
Yeah, but that was what he was like being accused of, and he was like, what the heck, like I've never, what in the world? And he's like, well, someone in your generational line actually has like bestiality, kind of thing. And so he dealt with it, and then, you know, that was that. But you know, a lot of times I think of the projections are kind of like that adversary pointing out things in you that you might have in your generational line that you can deal with. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So again, it is a mirror.
That makes so much sense. So when you were talking about you and Johnny, like I had the question come up, like, is venting the same as projecting?
I think projecting is more so like, I think of it as a projector, like you're putting like the other person's the blank slate, and you're putting whatever image on them that you are experiencing or feeling or whatever right now. And so it looks like them, but it's not.
Okay. Yep.
And then what was the other one? Venting is, to me, I usually am like, no, but this person did this, and it's not like towards that person that I'm venting to. It's separate. You know, I feel like that's more so of a release of energy. I feel like venting is a little healthier.
I was gonna say, so does venting happen in a healthy relationship, even if it's about one person venting to the other one about something that they're doing?
I think that can change things. I think if it's actually in a way that's like, you did this and I felt this from it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Not, you did this and you're so like, you're always like this, blah, blah, you know, like literally like screaming at them.
Constructive.
Right.
Or like in a healthy energy to move forward and heal the situation.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
it
there's like
should-
constructive criticisms and both parties are like trying to like fix the issue instead of just like reprimanding, I think it's different.
Okay, interesting. That like came up to me, so I figured, I don't know, someone might have had that question.
Because anytime I have ever done that, where I'm like telling it like, you always do this, you always do that, you're like this, whatever, and it never ends well, ever.
Yeah.
But if I go to him and I'm like, when you did that, I felt like this. Can you please not do that or change your tone of voice or whatever, it works out a whole lot better. It strengthens our relationship when I actually am open to hearing what he has to say and, vice versa and whatnot. So I think that's there's a fine line.
Yeah, I figured there was. That's why I was like, I need to ask this. Okay, so I have one more thing I want to read, and then I'm gonna close out with one too. So on page 92 here, it says relationships exist to hasten our walk to God. And then I'm jumping to page 105, and it says growth is never about focusing on someone else's lessons, but only on our own. We aren't victims of the world outside us. As hard as it is to believe sometimes, we're always responsible for how we see things.
Yeah.
So that goes straight into the projecting thing. Like,
sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I like, because I've had recent conversations with friends about this, like, they get into a relationship feeling like they can change the other person when it's really them that needs to change. And that was something that I really had to come to terms with and accept, was that I could not control or change my husband in any kind of way. Like, the only thing that I could do was change myself. That's the only power I actually had. And from doing that, he did change, which is amazingly enough, or the way that I saw him changed, who knows which it is, but I felt like so many women especially go into a relationship feeling like they can mold this person into whoever they want them to be. And it's like, but are they actually that person? Like, or is that just like who you want them to be and they are like seemingly weak and you can manipulate and control them?
This book actually talks about that. So that's probably something that will go into toxic relationships when we talk about that. But
and
it's an ego thing when it comes to that and how we attract people that we actually hate. Or like qualities within them that we hate, which is crazy, but that's a whole different thing.
That's and it's just funny because like the more I let go of Johnny and the more I let go of control of whatever he was doing, whatever his decisions were, like the more he drew closer to me, way closer. And I like even tell him, I know I can't control a single thing that you do. You can do whatever you want, but I trust you to make the decision that would make me the most proud. And it's been like that, literally. Because he knows that about me now. Like, I'm not trying to control anything. You do what you want. You are free to do whatever you want. But I hope that you would have enough respect for me and our marriage and our relationship and the family and the life we're building that you would choose wisely. And you tell a man that and they respond pretty well. Like, I feel like most men respond pretty well to freedom, as anyone does. And then it puts the ball in their court. Exactly. Very much puts the ball in their court, and then they want to start doing things for you. They want to, be that man that you see them as. basically.
It's empowering.
Yeah.
It's giving them the power to make the choice instead of making the choice for them and being
Exactly.
like that fall in line that goes right into the whole abandonment thing of like trying to hold too tight and suffocating someone, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
The more you
We
let
gonna heal
go,
these relationships, y'all. We gonna heal these relationships.
very needed these days, I feel like.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Thank you for sharing about like your marriage too, because that's you
Yeah.
know,
I'm a pretty open book. I'm not sure. I think as long as I'm speaking about it in a good light, he's fine with it. But yeah, he knows that I tell everyone everything for the most part.
yeah.
Not everything,
Well,
but most things. So he's gotten used to me now.
yeah. Well, I'm sure the viewers subscribe. The viewers appreciate your authenticity. So yeah. Okay, so that was really good. And I'm gonna close out with this little paragraph here on page 109. So it pretty much just like wraps this all up. Just because someone has a lot to teach us doesn't mean we like them. People who have the most to teach us are often the ones who reflect back to us the limits to our own capacity to love those to love, comma, those who consciously or unconsciously challenge our fearful positions. They show us our walls. Our walls are our wounds, the places where we feel we can't love anymore, can't connect any more deeply, can't forgive past a certain point. We are in each other's lives in order to help us see where we need most healing, where we most need healing, and in order to help us heal. So I've said this before, some of our hardest relationships, especially family ones, are our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
So you all just as hard as it may be, like especially when you're working on forgiveness of yourself in a relationship, because we're forgiving ourselves, not forgiving the other person. Remember that. What did we learn tonight?
He notes.
When we're doing that, and we're finding like that God spark in them, even if it's just like, oh well, he really loves his pet goldfish, and God is love. Love comes from God. So that's his God spark. So I'm going to focus on that and let that expand the situation. Yeah. And then I can be thankful that he taught me the lessons that I learned or whatever, you know, and
Yeah.
like sometimes some of these relationships out here are crazy, y'all. But like I was engaged when I was 22, and that crap, that was abusive, and I like fought, and I was like, look, somebody ain't gonna get out of this, all right? So like, you know what I mean? But like that situation activated me, like my awakening. And this was 12 years ago. And I think back to like some of these pivotal relationships, and I'm like, that one activated me into my Empress energy. Cause I was like, you know, and so it's like look back at those things, like especially some of the hardest ones or the hardest situations that we've gotten through or that we're shifting through, and look for the gold in it. Look for what the person is showing you or teaching you, because when you're finding that gratitude and finding the God spark in them, like even if it's like, oh well, she really loves beautiful nails or something like that. Like love is from God. Okay, that's God's part. Even if it's the most simple thing, or she has a beautiful laugh or loves to laugh, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. When we focus on that and fixate on that and like make it, envision that person in that light of like as if that was the only thing about them. Like this person just loves his goldfish so much, and that's like he shows up and it's the guy who loves his goldfish, period. That's how we can shift the energy of a relationship and transmute it and move it into a category that's not so traumatizing or so like heavy and gross feeling and whatnot, and we can free ourselves. It's freedom for us, not for the other person.
And it's so much more attractive, quite honestly. I mean, when you can find the good in other people rather than just being like, oh my gosh, like, what are they doing? Look at them, whatever. it's like, that's so not attractive in any kind of way. And to me, if you are doing that to other people, like the negative side, then other people are saying that about you also. They're finding the faults, they're finding the negative.
Yeah.
Um, and vice versa. But if you're doing it on the positive side, you become way more attractive. People only see the good in you.
Yeah.
That's the resonant frequency of you. It's very like I feel like in my family there's a lot of like critical people, like criticizing and or just pointing out like negative things in people. And I'm like, I don't see that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, how can you assume or like look at someone and talk so negatively about someone so quickly? Um, and yeah, I mean, unless I get a serious vibe from someone, I feel like for the most part, that's definitely what I try to do with most people. And for sure with the healing process of trying to forgive people and like release people and whatnot is finding that one thing that I can focus on that's good. Because
Yeah.
it's even like with my dad was so demonized most of my life because my parents were divorced. But we actually moved to the same street that I lived on when I was before my parents were divorced, like across the street from my dad. And and like, I mean, yeah, there's things that still annoy me about him, but for the most part, I'm like, he literally is doing the best he can. Like, he is so helpful. He's, you know, tries to be as generous as he can. Like, I see all the good that I never saw before because I was, just blinded to it and like in so much hurt and everything. But I have a lot of compassion for him now. And, he was one of the people that, you know, introduced a lot of trauma into my life, but I have so much compassion and empathy for him and who he is, and can totally see like the God and the good sides of him. I like to say that my husband Johnny is the good sides of my dad. Like he embodies the good sides of my dad, which is really nice
Yeah.
to think about because they're very similar in a lot of good ways. But yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Start changing that mindset, change your world.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was really good.
I was packed with a lot of different things.
I know, but like it's so, I don't know. I hope that you all viewers find this valuable information because relationships are so important and they're, we're communal beings and
Mhm.
if we're trying to clear out toxicity in every way of our lives, like
Mhm.
why not work on having healthy relationships? That's part of it.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
on the freeing the feminine kind of side is that like as women, I feel like are the glue to a lot of families
yes.
and whatnot. And I feel like if we can be that glue, and like everybody always tells me that like the mother is the springboard for everyone. That's
Mhm.
why we're able to handle so much because we've got everybody projecting and springboarding off of us, and like dealing with everyone's needs and emotions and thoughts and whatever. We're like the vessel for all of it. And whatever we do with that is really like what sets the family up for success or failure kind of thing, or to thrive or not. um and I feel like if we can deal with our issues and really be that safe place for everyone, you know, it's gonna be you start with your family first. So it would impact the world eventually if
Yeah.
everyone started doing that, especially moms or females. Not saying that we have all the responsibility. We've got our half, but you know, all we can do is change us. So
Yeah.
um yeah.
Yes. Cool. Well, All right, you all. I hope that some of this resonated with you, and please comment down below. We love to see your input and like to see conversation started and everything. And like both of our videos on both of our channels, please, and that helps us in like the YouTube algorithm and stuff. Keep they're seeing that people
Push
like
it out further.
to push it out. So more people can hear this. And then also, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to both of our channels if you resonate with our content as well. And all of our links are going to be down below in our description boxes, including Liz's shop and her baby registry, y'all, if you want to share some love and welcome little princessa into the world.
Girl, I seriously hope it's a princessa. We're all acting like it is.
I know, we're like, it's a girl. Yeah, but what else? Oh yeah. So you all, you're sovereign, powerful, worthy, and loved. Please remember that. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.